She stood chained to a hitching post like livestock, and Silas Bennett knew he should keep walking. He'd killed 3 men in his life and spent 3 years running from their ghosts. He had no business getting involved, no right to play hero when his own hands were stained with blood. But when the Cherokee woman's eyes met his across that crowd of bidders, something shifted. When she whispered through cracked lips, "Please, buy me and make me your wife," he faced an impossible choice. Walk away and live with one more ghost, or risk everything to save a stranger, and maybe, just maybe, save himself in the process. Silas pulled out $100 in blood money and prayed redemption could be bought. Silas Bennett had killed 3 men in his life, and every night their faces haunted his dreams. That's why he kept moving, drifting from town to town across Oklahoma territory, never staying long enough for the guilt to catch up. At 38, he looked older, weathered by sun and shame, a man running from ghosts he could never outpace. The trading post appeared like a mirage in the August heat, a ramshackle building squatting beside a dried creek bed 15 miles east of Tahlequah. Silas needed supplies, coffee, tobacco, ammunition, before pushing further west into Indian territory where men like him could disappear. The crowd gathered outside should have been his first warning. 24 men, mostly rough frontier types, circled around something Silas couldn't see. Their voices carried an ugly excitement, the kind that preceded violence or exploitation. He should have ridden past, should have kept his head down and his conscience quiet. But he dismounted anyway. Pushing through the crowd, Silas saw her. A Cherokee woman, maybe 25 years old, stood chained to a hitching post like livestock. Iron manacles encircled her wrists, connected by 2 feet of heavy chain. Her dark hair hung in tangled waves past her shoulders, and her traditional teardress was torn and filthy. But her eyes, deep brown and burning with defiance, hadn't been broken yet. "What's the bidding at?" a man in a stained suit asked, notebook in hand. $40, someone called. 45! Silas felt bile rise in his throat. He'd seen terrible things during his years as an outlaw, banks robbed, men shot, innocents caught in crossfire. But this was different. This was calculated cruelty, exploitation dressed up as commerce. The woman's eyes swept across the crowd and locked onto his. For a moment, something passed between them. Recognition, maybe, not of faces, but of shared desperation. She saw him the way he saw her, trapped, hunted, running out of options. $60! The bid came from a heavy-set man with a scar bisecting his left cheek. Silas recognized the type, trader, smuggler, the kind who saw people as inventory. "That's my final offer, Murphy. I'll take her to Fort Smith, get twice that from the right buyer." The man in the suit, Murphy, grinned. "Sold to $100. The words came out of Silas's mouth before his brain could stop them. Every head turned. Murphy's eyes narrowed. "You got that kind of money, stranger?" Silas touched the saddlebag where he kept the last remnants of his outlaw days. Money he'd been too ashamed to spend, blood money that burned against his conscience. "Cash. Right now." The scarred man stepped forward, hand on his pistol. "I was here first." "Then you should have bid higher." Silas met his glare without flinching. He'd faced down worse men, though it never ended well. His hand drifted toward his own weapon. Murphy stepped between them, greed overriding any sense of fairness. $100 is $100, sold to the stranger. The transaction happened quickly, Silas counting out bills while Murphy produced a rusted key for the manacles. The crowd dispersed, disappointed the show was over. The scarred man left last, shooting Silas a look that promised future trouble. When the chains fell away, the woman rubbed her raw wrists, but didn't run. She stood there, studying Silas with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. "You speak English?" he asked. "Better than you speak Cherokee." Her voice was strong, despite everything. "Why did you buy me?" Silas had no good answer. Seemed wrong to let that other bastard have you. So now you own me instead." Bitterness edged her words. "What's your name, Savior?" "Silas Bennett. And I don't own anyone. Soon as we're clear of this place, you can go wherever you want." She studied him for a long moment, then glanced at the trading post where Murphy watched from the doorway. "You're lying to yourself if you think it's that simple. Murphy sold me illegally. I was taken from my home 3 weeks ago. But he has papers now, forged ones saying I'm indentured. If I just walk away, he'll report me stolen. They'll hunt us both." The weight of his impulsive decision began settling on Silas's shoulders. "What's your name?" "Ayita. It means first to dance. The white men at the mission school called me Sarah, but I stopped answering to that years ago." "All right, Ayita. What do you suggest?" She took a breath, and Silas saw fear flicker beneath her defiant exterior. "There's only one way this works legally. You bought me as an indentured servant. Papers say 5 years of service, but if—" She paused, choosing words carefully. "If you marry me, that contract becomes void. A wife can't be property. I'd be legally free." Silas stared at her. "You want me to marry you? I want you to help me survive." Her voice cracked slightly. "I have family in Tahlequah, a sister and her husband. If I can get there as a free woman with legal papers, they'll take me in. But if I run, Murphy will send bounty hunters. If I stay with you as a servant, I'm still trapped." She met his eyes directly. "Please, buy me and make me your wife, just on paper, just long enough to reach Tahlequah safely." Silas felt the familiar weight of impossible choices. 3 years ago, he'd ridden with the Dalton gang. They'd hit a bank in Kansas and things went wrong. A deputy drew on them, and Silas had fired first. Killed a 22-year-old kid who'd been on the job 3 weeks. The second killing came when another gang member tried to shoot a hostage. Silas had put him down to save her. The third was self-defense against a bounty hunter. 3 dead men. 3 faces in his dreams. And now this, a chance to save someone instead of destroying them. "Marriage is serious," he said quietly, "even a false one. So is slavery." Ayita's eyes blazed. "I'm asking you to save my life. Whatever sins you're running from, and I can see you're running, maybe this is how you start making things right." She saw through him with uncomfortable clarity. Silas looked at the sun sinking toward the horizon, at the empty road stretching toward Tahlequah, at this woman who'd been chained like an animal but still had enough fire to fight for freedom. "There's a preacher in Cedar Creek, about 10 miles north," he said finally. "We ride there tonight, get married at dawn. Then we head to Tahlequah together. Once you're safe with your family, we figure out an annulment." Ayita's shoulders sagged with relief. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." Murphy's friend with the scar looked like the type who holds grudges. "We're not safe until you're with your people." They mounted his horse together, Ayita sitting behind him, and rode north as darkness fell across Oklahoma territory. The preacher in Cedar Creek asked no questions when Silas and Ayita appeared at his door before dawn. He'd seen enough desperate frontier couples to know better. $20, and 10 minutes later, they had a marriage certificate signed and witnessed. "Congratulations," the preacher said without enthusiasm. "May God bless your union." They rode out as the sun broke over the prairie, husband and wife on paper, strangers in reality. Ayita sat taller now, legal freedom transforming her posture. She directed them east toward Tahlequah, taking back roads she knew from childhood. "Tell me about your family," Silas said as they crossed a shallow stream. "My sister Atsila. It means blossom. She married a blacksmith, good man named Joseph. They have a house outside Tahlequah, small but solid. Atsila makes pottery, sells it at the market." Ayita's voice softened. "I haven't seen her in 2 years. I was teaching at a missionary school near Fort Gibson when Murphy's men grabbed me. They said I owed debts, but it was lies. They've been kidnapping Cherokee women, selling them to traders or worse. Rage burned in Silas's chest. Nobody's coming after you, not while I'm breathing. You can't protect me forever. Once we reach Tahlequah, you'll ride away and forget about this. Maybe. But even as he said it, Silas knew it wasn't true. Something had shifted in him when he'd counted out that $100. For 3 years he'd been running from what he'd done. Maybe it was time to run towards something instead. They made camp at noon in a cottonwood grove. Aita gathered kindling while Silas tended the horse. Normal domestic tasks, the kind married couples did without thinking. It felt strange and right simultaneously. You never told me what you're running from, Aita said as they ate jerky and hardtack. Silas considered lying, then decided she'd earned the truth. I rode with the Dalton gang, killed a deputy during a robbery gone wrong. He was just a kid. I see his face every night. He stared at his hands. Killed 2 others after that, one to save a hostage, one in self-defense. But it doesn't matter why. Dead is dead. Aita was quiet for a moment. The deputy, you said the robbery went wrong. Were you there to kill people? No, we wanted money, not blood. But he drew on you first. He was doing his job. I was breaking the law. And the other 2? You saved someone and defended yourself? She leaned forward. Silas, you're carrying guilt for being human, for surviving impossible situations and making split-second choices. I'm an outlaw. You deserve a chance to be better than your worst moment. Her voice was fierce. You bought my freedom when you could have ridden past. You're protecting me when you could have abandoned me. Maybe you killed people, but you're also saving one. That has to count for something. Before Silas could respond, horses appeared on the ridge above them. 4 riders, and leading them was the scarred man from the trading post. Well, well. The scarred man, Silas heard another rider call him Garrett, grinned down from his horse. Murphy thought you might head this way, said to remind you that stealing property is a hanging offense. Silas stood slowly, positioning himself between Garrett and Aita. She's not property. She's my wife. Got papers to prove it. Garrett laughed. Murphy says those papers are fraud. Says you coerced her into marriage to steal his investment. He produced a pistol. We're taking her back. You can come along to face charges, or we can leave you here bleeding. There's a third option. Silas kept his voice steady, though his heart hammered. You ride away and forget you saw us. 4 against 1. You like those odds? No. Silas's hand moved toward his gun. But I've done things I'm not proud of, and I'm trying to be better. That means I'm not letting you take her. Not today. Not ever. Time compressed into a single, crystalline moment. Silas had been here before, facing death, weighing choices, knowing someone wouldn't walk away. But this time felt different. This time he wasn't fighting for money or survival. He was fighting for someone else's freedom, for a chance at redemption. Garrett's hand twitched toward his trigger. Then Aita stepped forward, holding Silas's rifle she'd grabbed from his saddle. Actually, it's 5 against 4, she said calmly. And unlike you, I have nothing to lose. She chambered around. My people were marched at gunpoint from our homelands. We survived the Trail of Tears. You think I'm afraid of 4 cowards who steal women? One of Garrett's men shifted nervously. Garrett, maybe we should... Shut up. But Garrett's confidence had cracked. He'd expected an easy mark, not a desperate man, and a woman who'd already survived worse than anything he could threaten. Here's what's going to happen, Silas said quietly. You're going to ride back to Murphy and tell him the woman is legally married and therefore free. If he has a problem with that, he can take it up with the federal marshal in Tahlequah. But if I see any of you again, I won't hesitate, and neither will she. The standoff stretched for an eternity. Finally, Garrett holstered his weapon. This isn't over. Yeah, it is. Silas's voice carried the weight of certainty. Because I'm done running. From you, from my past, from doing the right thing. So unless you want to test whether I'm bluffing, you'll leave. Now. Garrett spat in the dirt, then wheeled his horse around. His men followed, disappearing over the ridge. Silas's legs nearly gave out once they were gone. Aita lowered the rifle, hands shaking. I've never fired a gun in my life. You sold it well. He took the weapon gently. Thank you. We make a good team. She smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. For a fake marriage, we're getting pretty convincing. They rode hard the rest of the day, not stopping until Tahlequah's lights appeared in the distance. Adsila's house sat on a hillside overlooking Tahlequah, smoke curling from the chimney in the cool evening air. Aita slid from the horse before it fully stopped, running toward the door that opened to reveal a woman who could have been her twin. The sisters collided in an embrace, both crying, both speaking rapid Cherokee that Silas couldn't follow. A tall man appeared behind them, Joseph the blacksmith, his expression wary until Adsila explained. Then he gripped Silas's hand firmly. You brought her home, he said. You have our gratitude. Inside, over dinner, Silas and Aita told the whole story. The trading post, the chains, the marriage, the confrontation with Garrett. Adsila wept openly. Joseph's jaw tightened with rage at what his sister-in-law had endured. You'll stay, Adsila insisted. Both of you. At least until we're sure those men won't return. I should move on, Silas said. I've brought enough trouble. You brought my sister back alive and free. Adsila's eyes were fierce. You stay. That night, Silas slept in their barn, clean hay and quiet darkness. For the first time in 3 years, the dead men's faces didn't haunt his dreams. Instead, he saw Aita's eyes when the chains fell away, her smile when they'd faced down Garrett together. In the morning, she found him grooming his horse. Planning to disappear? Thought about it. He kept working the brush along the horse's flank. But your sister's right. Until we're sure Garrett's gone, I should stay close. And after? Silas set down the brush and finally met her eyes. I don't know. 3 years I've been running, trying to outpace guilt, but last night I slept. Really slept. Maybe... He struggled for words. Maybe I don't need to run anymore. Aita stepped closer. The marriage was supposed to be temporary, just papers to get me free. Supposed to be, yeah. But things change. She took his hand. You're not the man who killed that deputy. You're the man who bought a stranger's freedom, who faced down 4 armed men to protect someone you barely knew. That's who you are now, Silas, if you let yourself be. I don't deserve... Stop. Her grip tightened. Nobody deserves redemption. It's not something you earn. It's something you accept and then spend your life being worthy of. She smiled. My people believe in second chances, in transformation. The caterpillar doesn't deserve to become a butterfly. It just does. Silas felt something break open in his chest. Not the crack of breaking, but the opening of something too long closed. If I stay, people will find out about my past. Then we face it together, as husband and wife. For real this time. He searched her face for doubt and found only determination and something else. Hope, maybe, or the beginning of trust. You barely know me. I know you climbed down into hell to pull me out. Aita's eyes shone. I know you stood between me and evil men. I know you're trying to be better than your worst moment. That's enough for now. The rest we can learn together. 6 months later, Silas worked alongside Joseph in the blacksmith shop, learning a trade that used his hands for creation instead of destruction. He and Aita had married again, a proper ceremony in the Cherokee tradition, with her family and community as witnesses. Not a desperate bargain this time, but a genuine choice. Some nights the guilt still came, the deputy's face young and afraid. But Aita was there, her hand in his, reminding him that redemption wasn't about erasing the past, but about building a better future. He'd bought her freedom with blood money and desperation, but she'd given him something far more valuable, a reason to stop running, a home, a second chance. And sometimes, in the quiet moments before sleep, Silas understood that they'd saved each other, her from chains, him from the prison of shame he'd built around himself. The marriage had started as a lie told in desperation, but truth has a way of growing in unlikely soil. What began as a legal fiction became something real, solid, worth fighting for. Aita was right. Nobody deserved redemption, but if you were brave enough to accept it and strong enough to become worthy of it, sometimes the universe gave you a second chance. And sometimes that second chance came in chains, begging for help, and transformed everything.